Welcome to Behind the Crown Podcast with your hosts, Brian Hudson and Josh Griffin. Sit back and enjoy these great stories and memories of the Kingsmen Quartet.
Welcome to this very special year in review episode of Behind the Crown Podcast with your host, Josh Griffin and Brian Hudson. Brian, how are you doing up there in Ohio today, sir?
Well, Josh, I'm doing well. How's things at Griffin Manor tonight?
Well, on the last episode, I was wearing a hoodie. And as you see,
Yeah.
I'm not wearing a hoodie. So it's warmed back up to the 80s again. And
Man.
yeah, at this recording, it's right here the week of Thanksgiving. So
Yeah.
it's back in the 80s. Talking about a little bit of thunderstorms tomorrow morning. So
Right.
like South Georgia weather, man.
Well, I think you're probably going to be getting the weather that we've got in Ohio. I put out some more Christmas decorations, let's see, yesterday, which would have been Monday,
Okay.
the Monday before Thanksgiving. And because I heard it was going to rain today, Tuesday is when we're taping this.
Yeah.
And man, they were ever more right. It has rained nonstop all day long. Seemed like there's a couple episodes, Josh, we've recorded, and it was raining the entire day that we were taping,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, things are going good.
You seen those animals line up 2 by 2 quite
They
a few
are.
times since we've done this
They're
podcast.
lining
Yeah.
up 2 by 2, man. Let me tell you, the animals, they are out, and they're out in 2 by 2 and out my driveway, and but anyway, so thank you for joining us on the podcast tonight. This is the Behind the Crown podcast, and this podcast is dedicated to the message, the men, and the music of the mighty Kingsmen Quartet. Josh, can you believe we've been doing the podcast this long already? I mean, we've had several episodes already.
Since May the 30th, if I remember right. So that's right at, let's see, this Friday will be 6 months. Wow. That don't even seem right, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, really, when you and I started talking about doing a Kingsman podcast, I to be honest with you, I was kind of a little leery because, man, if there's anybody that's tech illiterate, it is me. And that honestly, that was my big fear, because I'm thinking, okay, Josh is in South Georgia and I'm in Ohio, and if something goes haywire with technology, I don't know how to fix it. I just don't know anything about it. And but I for sure have had a really good time with this podcast.
Oh, I have loved every minute of it. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, I think a few episodes in, we started a segment called the Useless Information segment. And man, we've been getting all kind of comments and people just emailing and sending messages left and right, wanting to know, mainly want to know why we were giving useless information, but for the most part, people really do enjoy it, because I've explained it on, I think, every episode for people that join us, because sometimes people, they might land on us or find us for the first time.
That's right.
I want to explain why we do the useless information. I just think it's a great way to share some information with the world that you don't necessarily need to know. It's really cool to know these things, but
That's
so
right.
that being said, Josh, do we have a piece of useless information for this evening?
Yes. Ice cream warms the body. Hot weather and ice cream sound like the perfect combo, but it's actually not. Ice cream warms up our bodies rather than cooling down due to the high fat content, which makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
How about that?
Well, I wonder how come every time I eat ice cream in the wintertime, it makes me even colder. I sometimes shiver when I eat ice cream, but maybe that's just a mental thing. Of course,
We might see you walk around, get you a video posted on our Facebook page of Brian Hudson walking around in snowy Ohio winter weather eating a bowl of ice cream or eating a blizzard.
Well, I can certainly do that, but going back to my love for ice, I do love some ice cream. And one of my favorite things about going to the National Quartet Convention when it was in Louisville, man, they had some of the best ice cream. I've
heard that. Never got to experience that. But
man, they had them. I would get me and Yvonne. I would get one scoop of butter pecan and then one scoop of cookies and cream.
Okay.
And man, I love their ice cream, and but ice cream makes me thirsty.
Yes,
it does make me thirsty.
That's right.
So
yes.
Well, Josh, it's funny. Your piece of useless information was concerning food. I've got
Yeah.
one too. I looked
All
one up
right.
too. So
Let's do it. Yeah.
it says here Oreo has made enough cookies to span back and forth 5 trips to the
Wow.
moon. It has
Yeah.
made enough cookies to span 5 back and forth trips to the moon.
Wow.
That's a lot of cookies, Josh. So are you an Oreo man? Do you like Oreos?
I do like Oreos. Yes.
Okay.
I do. I do.
I like them. I like them. Not, I like them with a glass of cold milk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Or ice cold Diet Pepsi. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oreos,
Yeah.
Diet Pepsi.
I ain't tried it with coffee, but it'd be pretty good, I imagine.
I
Yes.
bet it would. I bet it
Yeah.
would be. Would be. Well, thank you for that piece of useless information, by the
Thank
way.
you for yours. Yes. Yeah.
Well, we do want to thank each and every one everybody for supporting the podcast so far. We've got a lot of great comments, and we are sure loving it. And I also want to thank all the Kingsmen guys that have
Yeah.
taken time out of their schedule to join us. Former members and current guys too. Because honestly, we try to keep our interviews 45 minutes, or sometimes they'll go over. And that takes time out of their schedule with their family, or they're doing other things. I know Tim Surratt, his son, had a ball game that day that we recorded Tim, and the guys are, most of the guys are married, and some of the guys got grandkids now, and some of them are still working. Randy Miller was in the studio that day, and Jerry Martin was too. He had just finished up with some vocal lessons.
That's right.
So I realized that that does take time out of their schedule. So I want to thank all the guys personally. In fact, I'll go ahead and mention all the guys we have interviewed so far.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Jerry Martin and Randy Crawford, the Dean of the Bass Singers, Ray Dean Reese.
Yes.
And we actually had Greg Fox come in and tell about his tenure. And then he came back a few weeks later and talked about his dad.
That's right.
Harold Reed and Johnny Perrick, Bob Sellers, one of my heroes, Wayne Maynard and Gary Shepard. Yes. Both those guys are my heroes. Tim Surratt, of course, I mentioned him a moment ago. Alan Kendall, and Randy Miller, harmonica player and dobro player. You name that guy can play it all.
Do anything,
Cody McVeigh, and we had Josh Harrell, and we had Nick Bruno for the last couple episodes. And so, so I will say, starting in January, we're going to have these guys we've already recorded. We just not posted them yet. We've got Chris Bryant and Brady Jones and Arthur Rice and Bob Conley and Nick Succi. Yes. So all those guys are those guys will kick us off in January, because we've decided we're going to take the month of December off.
Yes.
I know you're busy with your life and Christmas rolling around right around the corner, and for me and Yvonne, we do a lot of Christmas concerts, and so I think at last count we have maybe 19 concerts.
Okay, yeah,
good December, and so that'll give us a break, and so we're
plus you got grandkids as well too.
Yeah, 3 granddaughters.
That's right. Yeah.
So we will be kick things back off in January for sure. So, but Josh, I went back and watched every episode. Of course, I watched every episode.
Yes.
When we post it several times, and when we first started, I looked back on the first couple episodes we done, and man, we had a lot of technical issues.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think our first platform that we used at the time, man, we were getting, drag, a lot of drag time, and it kicked me off 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it Jerry Martin? I think we got it. I got 2 minutes into the interview or something with Jerry Martin, and it kicked me off. And man, you guys were still talking, and I'm doing everything I can to get back on there, and it just kept kicking me off again. And I think, and the first Gary Shepard interview we did.
Oh yeah, we just had a ton of trouble.
Yeah,
great interview.
And he was gracious enough to come back and record and let us record him again, because
thankfully he remembered a lot of what he told. That was good, because I didn't. But he did.
And he was so funny, man. I thought we've got to get him back on here, because he had some of the best stories. But since we have moved to this new platform, It's been a whole lot better for me. How about you?
A whole lot better. It's done great. Had any trouble with nobody really, and just far as on the editing side, I do that, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it's a whole lot easier to edit, which makes it easier. Yes.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, and I think we interviewed Tim Lovelace. Tim
Yeah.
Lovelace.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of lag time on him, and he would kind of freeze up, and you could hear him talking, but his mouth wasn't moving. So
Yeah.
we got him rescheduled for next year as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I love the useless information segment. That was always
Yes.
a fun segment for us, and hopefully everybody else is liking it too. But
I'm glad you come up with that idea. That's been a great one. Yeah.
well, yeah, I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a
Yes.
lot of different podcasts, and one I really like is this guy's not really Southern gospel, but Andy Chrisman. He used to be with a group called For Him,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I think his podcast is called 1 Degree with Andy.
Yeah.
And he listens, or he interviews guys that he loved hearing sing when he was younger.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, that'd be just a cool segment. And sometimes these talk shows, they'll have some kind of funny thing that's really doesn't have anything to do with the interview. So
Right.
that's kind of where that was birthed, And plus, Josh, I know a lot of useless information, so that helps.
Master at it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh goodness, that's good, man. I tell you what, and also after that as well, usually my first question I ask is, how did the audition process go
Yeah,
along with the
yeah,
Kingsmen? I always find that very interesting. That's just
yeah,
pretty neat, and to hear how each guy, some of them didn't have really one because they already was well established in Southern
yeah,
Gospel, but then some of them, like yourself and a lot of others, they met up with Greg and Eldridge, and the Kingsmen, and sang some songs, and either met up with Ray Dean and Brandon and the current group at the time and sang. That's always been a neat
Oh yeah.
stories to hear. Yes, sir.
And what I like, some of the same songs were used at all the auditions.
Yes,
I
that's
think
right.
they mentioned Glory Road was one of
Yes.
the. If you're a tenor, you're
Yeah,
going to audition with Glory Road. So let this be,
that's right.
once this goes out to the at the interwebs, as I love to call it. My granddaughter say, "Poppy, it's not interwebs, it's internet," and I'll say it interwebs. So
That's
any
right.
future Kingsman, if you're
Yeah,
watching this podcast, if you're going to audition for the Kingsman for tenor, you better know Glory Road.
that's right.
Because it's
Yeah.
gonna be sung during your audition.
Yeah, that's
For
exactly
sure.
right. Yes.
But I what I found really neat was when we asked guys, where they started.
Yeah.
A lot of them were inspired by the Kingsmen, and I
Yes.
thought that was so cool. They,
Yeah.
they were inspired, and the Kingsmen might not have been their favorite group, but it was one of the groups they really, really liked, and I thought that was cool. I think several of the guys mentioned that, so it just goes to show you the power of the Kingsmen. Meaning, great songs and
Yes.
great people and great personnel, and
That's right.
and the message about the Lord Jesus Christ and what He can do for you. That's
The
what
main
the
thing.
Kingsmen have been about for nearly 70 years.
Yes. That's
So
right. That's exactly right. Yes.
well, Josh, let me read some stats about the Kingsmen.
Yeah.
Somebody might be joining us on the podcast tonight for the first time, and they said, "Okay, well, who's the Kingsman? Is that the Louis Kingsman? No, it's not the Louis Kingsman."
And I don't know how they would ask that or why they would ask that question, but I thought everybody knew about it. But anyway,
Well,
yeah.
whether there's some people that have never heard of Southern gospel music and they've never heard of the Kingsmen. So, the Kingsmen were formed in 1956 as the McKinney brothers, and that was Everett and Lewis and Raymond and Reese McKinney, and I believe Raymond's the only one still living.
Yes.
And we are going to get Raymond on the podcast.
Good.
I did hear word that he would prefer not a video call like we do. He wants to do an audio call. So we're trying to figure that out. I believe Raymond's early 90s, maybe 91, maybe 92. But he would have a wealth of knowledge about the Kingsmen in the early days. But 54 Singing News Fan Awards, 4 Dove Awards, several Grammy nominations, 10 Southern Gospel Music Association Hall of Fame members. That's 10. And that would be Eldridge Fox, Big Jim Hamill, Great piano player Anthony Berger. Of
Mhm.
course, the dean of the bass singers, Ray Dean Reese, Mr. Squire Parsons, Mark Trammell, the Little Giant, Ernest Phillips, Arthur Rice, the High Commander, Nick Bruno. You'll have to watch the episode to find out about the High Commander.
That's right.
And then Martin Cook. And Martin Cook, most people know him from his years with the Inspirations, but he was with the Kingsmen for a brief time in 1957.
Yes.
The Kingsmen were inducted in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame back in 2000, and I was honored to be a part of the group back then.
That's
and
right.
then the Kingsmen were inducted in the Christian Music Hall of Fame back in 2007. 15 number one songs: Excuses, Saints Will Rise, Stand Up,
Mhm.
Jesus Is Coming for Me. That was a cash box, number one for 4 weeks. The Judgment was a cash box, number one for 1 week. Go and Tell Somebody. Wish You Were Here. Of course, Wish You Were Here was number one. It was also Song of the Year
Yes.
in 92. He's All I Need featured Gary Shepard. I Will Rise Up from the Grave to Meet the Lamb was a number one song. The Next Cloud, that went number one in, I think, 2000. God Sits on High, that was officially Carolina Boys. That was the Carolina Boys days when they were Carolina Boys for a short time. When God Ran, that was in 2009. I was on that recording. God Saw a Cross, featured Harold Reed.
Yes.
And then That's All I Need. That was number one. Then Oh Yes I Am. And then Battle Cry, Victory Shout, Ready for the Change, and Unstoppable God.
Yeah.
That's quite a list, Josh. That's quite a list, you know?
If I'm counting right, you recorded 4 of those songs, I believe. Next Cloud, When
Yeah.
God Ran, God Saw a Cross, and That's All I Need. How about
Yeah,
that?
that's true. Yeah, for number one. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And
That's
finally, they had get this, they had 75 charting songs.
a lot too.
That's pretty incredible. That's pretty
Yes.
incredible, you
That's
know?
right.
But
That's right. Yeah. Speaking of that, a lot of the guys, they told what their favorite songs were, and most of those were iconic Kingsman songs. And I mentioned it before too. My favorite was "I'll Live Again." She was on back in 1999. And that's hard to believe that was never a number one song, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
was it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it up for Song of the Year back in?
you know what? I
Like
believe it.
2099?
I believe it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I remember singing it on the Fan Awards.
Yes, that's right.
If I'm not mistaken, I think maybe it might have been George Johnson that introduced us of the
Yes.
Cathedrals. I think he was
Yes.
hosting the Fan Awards that year, and I remember him saying something about the Kingsmen or something. And
Around 400 years, and he met 40. Yeah, 40
yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah, that's right, that's right. So
About
yeah,
that. Yeah.
that was. But you know what? I don't think it was. I think it was a top 5 song. I don't think it was ever a number one. But it was funny how it was nominated for Song of the Year, but it was never a number one song.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's good. But well, you know, you said something about iconic songs. One of our plans for next year for the next part of the podcast, we're going to go back and we're going to talk about some of those. Well, we're going to highlight some of the iconic songs. You know, I just mentioned 15 number one songs right there that went number one for the Kingsmen. So I think it'd be cool just to take an entire episode and talk about these songs. You know, maybe even if we can on some of them, kind of track down get the guys who recorded them originally. I think I mentioned a couple times, get Tim Surratt on here, let him talk about Wish You Were Here.
Yes.
Get Gary Shepard, and he can talk about He's All I Need. Songs that, get Harold back here for God Saw a Cross and songs like that. Just dedicate an entire episode, kind of talk about, maybe even get some stories from the writers. And, kind of where did you pick up, maybe get Rodney Griffin for God Saw a Cross.
Right. Yeah.
He wrote that. So we can maybe get him on here, let him talk about kind of where the song came from, what inspired God Saw a Cross. And I think that'd be a lot of great information to give people and make for a great episode,
Yes, it would. Yeah, because a lot of those songs like that, I don't know how in the world they come up with it, but it is amazing. Yeah, it's
well,
great.
I've always said for songwriters, because there's so many, just take the last 50 years. There's been so many songs written in gospel music, and to find a new way to say what's already been said about the blood of Jesus or being saved or going to heaven, finding a new way to say it that hasn't been said before is kind of a challenge, because you don't want your song sounding like somebody else's song, you know.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I think songwriters are very gifted in that way of sharing the same story but find a different way to say it.
And it's uplifting Jesus and Lord, but you got to keep the consumer, the audience attention with it too as well.
Right. That's true. That
takes a lot of effort. Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's very true.
Yes.
Well, I also enjoyed hearing what their least favorite songs were.
Yeah.
And what inspired that question for me was, you always ask, hey, what was your favorite song? But hardly anybody says, what was your least favorite? Because, let's be honest, there's some songs out there that I'm sure bands have sung and singers have recorded, and man, they're just sick to death of them, So I thought, hey, this is Behind the Crown, hey,
that's
some
right.
of these guys had to have songs they didn't like singing or they weren't crazy about. I'll put it that way.
Shake Hands for the Poor Boy was Gary Shepard and Greg Fox's least favorite, and then Apple Tree Song.
That was one of my least favorite songs.
Yeah,
I just it was that the timing, dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
And me being a drummer, growing up as a drummer,
oh yeah,
I didn't like songs like that. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what the song said. Man, I hated playing songs in that tempo, and that signature. And so that was one of mine too. But and Johnny Perrick and Wayne Maynard both mentioned how much they disliked the Apple Tree Song.
Now, and as a fan, Apple Tree Song, excuses, I guess, because heard it, enough. It's a popular song, iconic song. But Game of Life, another one. Probably the three that I probably skip over in my playlist the most. Yeah.
Well, I think I mentioned on an earlier episode about Excuses. When Excuses came out, when they first came out with that, I was in a local group. I was a teenager, and me and my brother and cousin, we would sing with other groups, other local talent. And man, Josh, everybody was doing Excuses. Everybody was. And there was no bigger Kingsmen fans than us. We were called the New Generation, but there were no bigger Kingsmen fans than us. And it seemed every time we went out somewhere and worked with another group, they sang Excuses. And honestly, I think that's what ruined it for me, because they were all doing it. They were all doing that song. So that's like, that's why I just got sick of the song, But yeah, it certainly is iconic, and it was Excuses was the longest running #1 song in gospel music history.
Oh yeah,
that's amazing. That is amazing. But
both your time there in the '90s with the guys, did y'all? I'm sure you probably did. That you can remember. Did anybody ever request that you can remember?
Oh, they did all the time. They did all the time. But I will say the only in the five was I was there almost 10 years total.
Yeah.
And my first tenure was a 5-year tenure. We were asked nightly, are you going to do Excuses? And the only time we ever sang it in my first 5 years from 96 to 2001, we did it at the Gold City Homecoming, where we recorded not just as big, but not just, what was it called? Not
quite as big, but just as live.
That's it. Not quite as big, but just as live. After we stopped recording that night, when Jim Hamill had come out on stage, I remember somebody yelling Excuses, and he did just a small portion of it, and we did maybe one chorus with the band.
Wow!
And that was the only time. And we never even it didn't turn out so great because Hamill missed most of the words, so we never even kept it for that recording.
Okay,
it was an afterthought.
There's a Kingsman story I've never heard before.
Yeah.
And I love that CD. I think over the years I found 2 original copies of that old CD because that was a hard CD to find.
Yeah, well,
and I still got one. I think I sent you one, and I got it on my iPhone. I digitized and everything. I love that. That was
we originally were going to release that. It was going to be a mainline album.
Yeah,
and then the record company decided not to do that, so the Kingsmen just decided to have that as a table project.
Yeah.
So what that means is, because it's a table project, it was never distributed to Christian bookstores and things like that. It was just mainly on the table. So yeah, they are hard to find, but it was a great album for sure.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And some of the guys mentioned they didn't have a least favorite song. I know Bob Sellers and Cody McVeigh and Josh Horrell
Yeah, Josh Hall.
Well, I think one of the guys even said that I never even thought about that. I never even thought about having a least favorite.
Right.
So, well, of course, Bob Sellers said he liked them all. I remember him saying, "I liked them
Yeah,
all,"
that's
So,
right.
and that's okay. I had one that I wasn't crazy about, but that was called "Oh Brother" that we did.
Oh, yeah.
But we sang it because the Kingsmen, when they called the song, whoever's the MC, they called the
Right.
song, you go.
Yeah, that's right. Better be ready.
Yeah, you got to be ready for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and we one of our questions we ask all the guys every episode, we ask them, one of their favorite things about life on the road. And what I liked about almost every single one of the guys,
Yeah.
former guys and current guys, they all mention the camaraderie of the other
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
And I think that, and to me, that speaks volumes about the Kingsmen.
Yes.
Because we really are a brotherhood. You've heard this expression, once a Kingsman, always a Kingsman.
That's
And
right.
that really speaks to me when the guys say, you know what, it was a rough being gone, but
Mhm.
I enjoyed the time singing, but I
Yeah,
enjoyed the guys and spending time with the guys, having
that's right.
being part of a team. So
Yes.
I thought that was pretty cool.
And another one of our questions would do the least favorite thing, and
Yeah.
a lot of them talked about being gone so
Yeah.
much, and that y'all are human, you miss your families and all, but thankfully, like each group had like a brotherhood. You said,
Yeah. Yeah.
lineup. I mean, had a brotherhood, and y'all could cut up and you know pick with each other and all, but also when you needed to, everybody needed to calm down and have you a long time, y'all could do that as
Yeah.
well too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The 45-foot bus,
yeah,
uh, especially when you're gone several days in a row, man,
yeah,
it can seem like a 5-foot bus instead of
yeah.
45 foot.
I can
And
imagine.
and I think the guys pretty much knew when somebody needs some time alone,
Yeah, yeah.
um, especially back in the day when before cell phones, it was
Oh yeah,
that's what made it harder when you we would literally pull up to a truck stop or someplace and jump out and hope you're the first one to the payphone to be able to
yeah,
call home and check on the kids and check on family and things going on.
yeah,
But it's a little bit better these days because you do have a cell phone and you're able to call. But there again, just to give you an idea, there's not a lot of privacy on the bus, and so
right.
when you're talking to your spouse or you're talking to your kids or you're talking to somebody on the phone, man, they're hearing all the entire conversation. Well, they're hearing your side of the conversation. So
Yeah,
sometimes you got to go somewhere just to have a little privacy.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but yeah, you do miss birthdays and anniversaries.
yeah.
You miss funerals. I
Yes,
can't tell you how many funerals of dear friends of mine that I missed.
right.
And I was able to go to a couple of them. But there again, there's not a lot of people out there that can jump in and fill in for you at a
Yes,
last minute notice. That's
yeah. And you think about it this way too. I've said it before. You talk about when somebody leaves a group or something, you have to find somebody to come in and sing.
yeah,
This, I guess you would say, section or pool of Southern gospel singers is really, really small.
they are. They really
Because
are.
I mean, I can try my hand at singing around the house or something, or riding the road singing Kingsman. It ain't good quality. You know what I'm saying? You got to have somebody that's experienced that and knows about life on the road, life on the bus with people. That's another thing with it too. But there's
Well,
not a lot you can pick from.
well, and going along with the very same thought there,
Yeah,
there's not a whole lot of people that can take off work.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And because most groups like the Kingsmen, they
yeah.
will work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right.
So most people who have what I call real jobs,
Yeah.
they're working Friday and Saturday, Thursday and Friday,
Right.
and getting off to go Thursday and Friday. Now,
Yeah.
granted, some people are off on the weekend, Saturday and
Right.
Sunday,
Yeah.
but if you're going to fill in with a quartet, say the Kingsmen,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
during my days, we were gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right.
You to find somebody that can take off work to
Yeah.
go and meet and do 4 dates
Yeah.
at last minute, that's hard to find. That's
And
really hard to find.
you got to go when the people,
Oh
schedule you.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's the name of the game,
yeah.
Yeah. You got
If
to.
if they need you that weekend, that's when you need
Yeah.
to go. So,
That's right. Yes,
um,
sir.
but
That's right.
uh, And I will say about being gone, and we'll move on to something else. The families of the guys,
Yeah.
I really think are called to this as much as the men on the bus.
Yes.
Because they got to be flexible. They have to be understanding, and you got, like I said, anniversaries roll around, and
Yeah.
well, our anniversary is Saturday. We either need to celebrate before we leave or after I get back home.
Yeah.
And so they've got to be very understanding. They've got to be called to
Yeah. That's right.
called to the ministry, not just the Kingsmen, but all of the spouses of people who travel in Southern gospel music have to be called to it, because it is a very you got to be very flexible and be willing to say, you know what, I know they have to go out, and
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you that I remember one time, like I said, we'll go on. My son, he was probably 6 years old,
Yeah.
and I had to go in and tell him goodbye. And when I reached down to kiss him goodnight, I was getting ready to go get on the bus. He said, "Daddy, you got to leave again." And I said, "Yeah, I got to leave again." I said, "But I'll be back home Monday." And so it's a tough life, but God God still blesses it, and God gives
Yes.
you fruit for your labor. So, but we appreciate the families, of course, for being supportive, for sure.
That's
Uh,
right.
Uh, and we heard a lot of funny stories too, Josh.
Oh, yes.
We've heard. I think what was really neat to me was Johnny Perrick and Nick Bruno. They told the same story
Yes.
about the time the Kingsmen got literally froze to the ground.
Yeah.
Scott City, Kansas.
It
Literally,
was there for several days, they talked like, too.
yeah,
Yeah.
several days.
Yeah.
Well, I think Eldridge Fox had mentioned that on the 40th anniversary reunion video. He just said froze to the ground in Scott City, Kansas. And so I didn't think anything more about that story until Johnny, early on, one of the early episodes, Johnny Perrick started telling that story. I said, okay, here's the story about Scott City, Kansas. Okay, here we go. And then, and then he told it from his perspective. And then, and then most recently, the High Commander, Nick Bruno, told it. He was the one driving when it happened, so.
And that's just what you get here on Behind the Crown podcast. These behind the scenes stories from people that were there during what happened, right there, lived it, Yeah. Yes, sir. That is neat, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, of course, everybody, several guys told stories about Eldridge Fox's toupee, his hairpiece,
That's right. And I can remember as a youngin' watching that 40th anniversary reunion, because I remember we found it on eBay and bought it and had a VCR and put it in. And I never knew a lot of these guys. I just knew the Kingsmen, knew some of the songs.
Yeah.
Met a lot of guys on there. Remember seeing Bob Conley on there, a future guy will come up soon. But never knew that about Eldridge Fox wearing a toupee. But just it's something else I learned as well. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Gary Shepard told about. Well, people have to watch it. He told some funny things about picking on Foxy and his hairpiece, and that was hilarious. And of course,
and the way you say, Foxy said, "The Lord's gonna let me kill you."
Yeah, the Lord's gonna let me kill you.
Yeah, go back and check out Gary's 2 episodes. That's some great.
It is, man. Gary is hilarious. And,
of
course, I think Randy Miller told a couple stories about it, and Tim Surratt told some stories about it. Well, and Johnny did, and
that's right.
And most of the guys were telling the first time they saw Fox without his hairpiece and without his teeth, without his glasses.
Yeah.
So people can go back and watch the episode we're talking about and get a good laugh for sure.
You talked about Tim Surratt there. Him talking about being left in the desert, stranded in the desert.
Oh yeah.
Looking for help. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, when you hear that story, people go back and listen to that story when Tim tells that. It sounds like something was in a movie. I mean, quite honestly, like one of those slapstick movies that are kind of just so far out there that they're just hard to believe.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first time you hear that story, you're thinking, it didn't happen that way. Ain't no way it happened that way. And passing each other and him trying to find the bus and like I said a moment ago, before cell phones.
I know that's hard to believe for some of our younger listeners.
Oh, it is, man.
Yeah,
it is. And so when you're out there and all you have is all you have is payphones and a CB radio.
Yeah.
Man, how do you track somebody down? A bus? How do you track them down and make them stop? And you got to hear how Tim made the driver that was driving Tim, how they made the bus stop. That sounds like something right out of the Dukes of Hazzard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does. That's right. And then more on a serious one. You was there at the time when y'all got in a bus wreck as well back in 2009. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we recently interviewed Cody McVeigh, and
Yes.
he briefly touched on it.
Yeah.
For maybe a couple minutes, but in fact, this week, November the 22nd was this past week at the taping. That was the anniversary of the bus wreck.
Wow.
From 2009. So we were in Texas, and it was about 3:00 in the morning. And in fact, I had just went to bed. Okay, I had just finished up. I was the one back in those days where I was adding dates to the website. Okay.
Yes.
So I had my laptop. It was about 3:00 in the morning, and I was adding Kingsman dates to our website schedule, tour schedule. And I went to bed, and I remember we pulled off the main highway. It was a 4-lane highway. We pulled off, and I was in bed by then, and so the driver had pulled off and come down the ramp, and then he turned left on a 2-lane road and was heading to the hotel that the church had reserved for us.
Right.
And according to the driver, his name is Larry Linkus. He now drives for the Collingsworth family.
Okay.
He said he looked in his rearview mirror and he saw a car from way back behind him coming real fast.
Yeah.
And he said, honestly, I thought it was a policeman because they were going so fast.
Yeah.
So Larry starts to pull off on the shoulder to get out of the way so this cop can pass. Right. Well, this person hit us right in the back. And I'm just going to try to, the back of the bus, right there where the radiator, one of the radiators is, hit us right. Now, she didn't hit us straight on. If she'd hit us right in the back, this lady would have been killed, to be honest with you.
Right.
But she hit us right on the corner, hit us so hard, Josh, she pushed us 50 feet.
And that's a big old bus, heavy bus.
That's a big old bus. Well, the bus is 45 feet, so it pushed us the entire length of the bus plus 5 feet. She hit us that hard. And I was in my bunk, and my feet were when you're riding in the bunk, you always put your feet facing the driver.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, when you're laying in your bunk, and I hit so hard, it just kind of crumbled me up like a piece of paper to the bottom of my bunk.
Right.
So I felt us get hit, and I pulled the curtain back. And by that time, Ray Dean was pulling his curtain back. He had just went to bed. And I ran up front and was like, "Hey, everybody okay? Everybody okay?" And I looked out the window. I pulled the blind up, and all I could see was so much smoke. And there was a car. I could see the car. Once she hit us, it kind of just turned sideways in the road and stopped. And it looked like it was on fire.
Right.
And those guys were pretty quick, because Brandon Reese and Cody McVeigh were already out of the bus, and they were trying to get the lady out of her car.
Wow.
And I realized some people, they said, now they shouldn't have moved her. But they had to get her out of the car.
Right. Never know.
There was so much smoke, I could barely even tell what kind of car it was.
Right. Yeah.
So they took her out of the car, and she ended up having, she had worked late that night, and she said she didn't see the bus. I don't know how. Of course, it was a black bus.
Right.
And it was night.
That's right.
But we had all the lights working. I don't know how she didn't see the bus.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think she ended up with 2 broken legs and a broken arm. She was pretty bad shape for a while.
Right.
But I'll tell the rest of the story. So we get up. It's, like I said, about 3:00 in the morning. We wait a little while. We call a tow truck. An ambulance comes get the lady, and we got up, about 6 or 7, and called our families. We didn't want our families hearing about it, thinking, Kingsmen are a bus wreck and we can't get a hold of somebody. So I remember calling Yvonne and say, listen, we were on a bus wreck. Everybody's okay. The lady's hurt, but we're fine. the bus, it busted the airbag, so we couldn't drive the bus.
Right.
And so highway patrolman come, and they sent this wrecker, and this wrecker looked like it was a $9-10 million wrecker. I mean, it had bells and whistles, and I think it was purple. I mean, it was loaded.
Yeah.
And that wrecker driver probably spent 2 hours trying to move the bus.
Wow.
Couldn't move it an inch.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're all standing out there. I remember the highway patrolman, he looked at that tow truck driver and he said, "All right, I'm giving you 5 minutes. If you don't move that bus, I'm calling somebody else."
Wow.
And he couldn't even budget.
Yeah.
So here comes this old wrecker. Looked like it come over on the ark. Like like Noah himself drove this wrecker.
Yeah.
It looked like it was beat up and about 14 different colors, and it had body filler in it.
Yeah.
And he hooked it up, and within 5 seconds of hooking that up, he pulled that bus and got her moved.
Wow.
Like that big nice $1 million wrecker couldn't budge that. Couldn't even budge.
That's right.
So anyway, long story short, I'll finish. They towed us to the hotel. No, they towed us to the church.
Okay.
We weren't supposed to sing till the evening. It was a Sunday evening. They towed us to the church and left us in the parking lot. And then we called a bus company out of Nashville, and they sent another bus to come get us. And it took 24 hours for them to get to us.
Wow.
Yeah. So needless to say, we didn't get home early that week at all. It was
right.
That was Sunday night. We didn't get home till Tuesday evening sometime. Then we had to leave again Wednesday night. So anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our bus wreck in 2009.
That's man. Yeah, that's what. Well, when you travel on a bus, you just don't never know breakdowns and stuff that happen.
That's exactly right. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, never know. Sure.
Well, Josh, did you have a favorite road story that somebody told?
That's kind of hard. Being a Kingsman fan, all the great ones I've heard. Just something that comes to mind. Of course, Tim Shirts comes to mind. Gary Shepard's talking about with Greg Fox climbing on top of the bus, and on the back half of the bus dropping a little rubber snake in there on him, and Anthony Berger and him having a fit, come running off the bus, and Lawrence Taylor with Heaven Bound dressed in a gorilla suit for some reason, outdoor singing. Who knows what in the world's going on, but see him running down, and Eldridge Fox is over there just saying, "My goodness, what a dog!" That's been a great one. Alec Kendall talking about spending time with Ray Dean. Mixed up lyrics. Sorry, Ray, I love you though, buddy. But great ones, just been some great ones. And probably that one with Randy Crawford, the more serious one.
Yeah.
He had a family friend that was close to passing away in Kentucky back in Lexington, singing in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And Ray Dean got him back home, with a plane ticket, and Randy said he don't know how he done it still to this day. And I can remember talking to Ray Dean a couple of weeks ago, and I shared that one on Facebook on our Behind the Crown podcast on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I guess somebody told him about it, or he seen it. He said, "What was that story y'all shared to me that Randy was telling?" And I told him, and you can kind of tell Ray was getting kind of quiet, in conversation. And he kind of, got teary-eyed a little bit, the way it sounded on the phone. But just speaks a lot about Ray Dean. But I just wanted to many that we've heard, stories. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, and I like what Randy Miller told about, he sold his golf clubs.
Yes.
He sold his golf clubs, and he said Eldridge Fox found out about it and said, we don't want you doing that. I want you doing that. I want you to, so he got his clubs back, and, and stories, not just the funny ones, but the stories that tell about the integrity of the guys, of Foxy and Ray Dean, and and that's like the nearly 10 years I was there. I'll be forever in their debt for Ray and Brandon and Eldridge and Greg for taking care of my family.
That's right.
Because I being in Southern Gospel, there are lean weeks. There are weeks that hey man, we did the offerings weren't great, and and sometimes the promoter sneaks out the back door with the money, and doesn't pay the groups. I've seen that happen a lot of times, and I know of many guys in this industry where the owner will say, "I'll have to get you next week. I'll have to get you next week," and never missed a paycheck with any of those guys. They always took care of me, and they sacrificed personally and professionally to make sure the Kingsmen were taken care of. So I appreciate that. I really do. I really do.
And I'll mention too, yes, it's a ministry, but it's also a business. It has to be.
Yeah.
You know, you got that bus, you got to have a bus doing what y'all do, the Kingsmen do. You got to have money to pay for it and pay for the CDs and all that kind of stuff. But to hear how those guys took care of those people when they didn't really have to, you know, like Elders getting Randy Miller's golf clubs back.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Rating,
The little things. Yeah. The little things besides the paycheck. You know, the extra stuff, you know, the little stuff behind the pay besides the paycheck. Cause you know, it's those little things. And I think I told the story about, taking my son there one time when Fox was in the office, and, you know, he loaded my son up with change, you know, and we went and played video games and bought lunch on change that Eldridge Fox gave to my son. And so, you know, there's little things like that they don't have to do. They don't have to do, you know.
That's right. And at least you know it's a family. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Well, you know, our first few episodes, we highlighted Eldridge Fox. We talked about him several times, Big Jim Hamill. So, you know, next year, for the podcast, we're going to highlight some of those Kingsmen alumni that have passed away. We're going to dedicate an entire episode to Anthony and, you know, Ed Crawford and, you know, I want to do on Squire and Little Ernie and, you know, and some of those guys that Gary Dillard, you know, Philip Hughes, and we want to honor them in at least one episode, you know. So I think that's something we can do to honor those guys that have passed.
And just be on the lookout for those episodes as well, because we've got hopefully some things worked out. Maybe that we can get some guests that travel with those gentlemen. To come on and talk about them and share about them too. And that'd be a neat thing to be a part of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes. You know, and I also enjoyed the question, who, if you could choose a group or, you know, not necessarily gospel music or whatever, to play a song or sing a song with, you know, I love that question as well too. You hear a lot of different things. And it's a neat question. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very neat question.
Well, I kind of look at that as a bucket list kind of thing. Yes. You know, if you could go back and grab 2 or 3 guys, if you could play a song with them or sing a song with them, you know, I think that's pretty cool. And we heard a lot of you know, well-known gospel music personalities. And well, you know, Cody McVeigh said he would love to not necessarily play, but he would love to arrange a song for Frank Sinatra. And I thought that was pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And Gary Shepard said, you know, he would love to hear Elvis Presley do some gospel. You know, he mentioned he'd love to hear Elvis do some gospel in a quartet. You know, Elvis did a lot of gospel. He did a lot of gospel music, but in a quartet, and a quartet he built around Elvis would have been pretty stout. That's a Nick Bruno word. Nick used that, and I'm going to start using that. It's pretty stout.
Pretty stout. Yeah.
But I also thought it was cool when the guys mentioned going back and getting some family members.
Yes.
And those people that they mentioned, they weren't household names. Right. You know, they weren't household names. I know Cole Watson mentioned he would love to sing with his dad. His dad, I think he said, died 7 or 8 years ago of cancer, and his Mimi and Pawpaw, he'd like to go back and maybe sing a song with them, you know, if he could. And then I think Josh Horrell mentioned his grandmothers. Both his grandmothers would love to sing. For me, it'd be my brother. You know, my brother died in January of 2024. Right. And if I could go back in time and grab anybody, it would be me and my brother. It would be Ernie Phillips.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'd get Ray Dean.
Oh yeah.
And not for me, right, but for my brother. Yes. My brother, you know, he was a Kingsman fan, maybe bigger than me, and I would have loved to put us 4 in a quartet just so he could sing with Ernie and Ray.
That's right.
You know, and I would be there just to watch his reaction, but I would love to do it for him. He would have loved that. He would have loved that.
You speak about your brother Jim Hudson. I got the honor to meet him at NQC back in I've been 15 or 16 up there in
Okay.
Pigeon Forge, and that was pretty neat. Yeah, got to meet Jim Hudson. Yes.
Yeah, he was a Kingsman fan through and through, and he had a radio show in Columbus, Indiana, and his son has taken that over and doing a great job with that. But they're 24-hour, 7 day a week gospel station, and my brother was a huge King. And we would go to concerts, and if he would come, after I had joined the Kingsmen, if he would come, I always made sure he brought him up and did a song with us. In fact, we brought him out one time at the Quartet convention.
Yeah.
And I remember we were getting ready to go on stage, and I said, "Do you know Saints Will Rise?" And he said, "Well, yeah. Why?" I said, "Be ready." He said, "What?" I said, "Be ready." I said, That's going to be our closing song." And I said, "If we don't run out of time, I said, keep your eye on me."
Yeah.
And I said, "If I motion for you, you come up."
That's right.
He said, "Little brother." I said, "Just be ready." I said, "Be ready." And we did it. And we brought him up on the encore of the Saints Will Rise. So,
and that's on that EQC DVD y'all did. Live CD and DVD. Yeah. Yourself, Harold Ray, Philip Hughes, and Ray D. Grace and Cody McVeigh. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We had a good time with that. So, but anyway, but
yeah. And I liked hearing about the special moments, whether it be in a church service or it could have been in a civic center auditorium kind of deal, where God just settled in the midst and just moved.
Yeah.
It's good to hear because, like me, growing up as a Kingsman fan, you see these guys on stage and you're like, they're really special guys in my eyes, but just to see they're really humans.
Yeah.
And when they sense the presence of the Lord to move in, they just kind of step back and say, "Hey, have your way, Lord." Just step back, and that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. At the end of the day, all the high tenor singing and the low bass singing and the band or whatever's happening on the stage is good. But when God shows up and God blesses the people and he blesses the guys on the stage, that's when, and to be honest with you, that's a tough thing that I had to, I struggled with a little bit. I may have told this story, and this interview ain't about me. This episode ain't about
Go
me.
ahead. Yeah.
But one time I think I told the story. One time we were singing behind the McCameys, and we were in this big a rodeo arena down in, I think it was Alabama somewhere, and we were following the McCameys. And at this time, it was my second tenure. I was emceeing.
Yeah.
Meaning I called the songs and I talked between songs, and I was walking backstage, and the McCameys were up singing, and they were doing that song. Down the road comes Jesus right on time.
Right on time. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And I'll be honest with you, as I stood back there and watched them, the Holy Spirit got all over me. And I was squalling, Josh. I ain't kidding you. I mean, it was a moment. I'm backstage behind the curtain, and they say, "Here they are, the Kingsmen." And I didn't want to go out and do meeting at the table.
Y'all come back home, McCabe's, and do that again.
My heart was, I want to go out and give an altar call. I really wanted to.
Yeah.
And I knew that we were supposed to do 45 minutes of Kingsman music.
Yes, sir.
And so it was difficult. Did I do the right thing? I don't know. Looking back on it, at the time, at that moment, I knew they wanted 45 minutes of music. They wanted Meet Me at the Table. They wanted When God Ran. They wanted God Saw a Cross. They wanted a little bit of Beautiful Home. Yeah. They wanted Glory Road. They wanted those songs. Right. And my heart wanted to go out and give them an invitation right then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But those people they probably weren't feeling the same things I was feeling.
Yeah.
So I will say anytime the God moved was a wonderful thing.
Yes. That's
so
right. Yes.
Anytime he moves, it's the right thing. So
that's right. And like Gary Shepard mentioned, it's kind of a funny statement, but it's true. A good thing to mess up a good gospel singing is the Holy Spirit moving.
Yeah, that's true.
He said that, and I was like, what did he say? But if you really think about it, I mean, because, you got to have entertainment, like I said before, but ministry is the main thing, but you're going to have entertainment as well, too. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. And if your heart is right, I really believe if your heart is right, God can still use a funny thing. God can still use that entertainment because you got to have a balance. You got to, and Kingsmen were always great at that. They're always great at that of a little bit of entertainment, also ministry. So you got to have that balance. But one of my favorite stories that I heard was hearing that during Chattanooga Live, which was my favorite Kingsman record, hearing about them shutting down the concert and did an altar call. And I did know that story. I had never heard that story before.
Yeah, because if I understood that right, not all the Kingsman set was recorded and released on album, if I remember right. So of course, we didn't get that part either, but that would have been neat to, who knows, it might have been a 2-disc or a 2-record set.
Yeah, that's true.
That would have been neat to hear,
Those days before the disc, Josh, the 2-record set,
I remember cassette tapes and CDs. Now we're going to digital, but other than that, before that, I don't remember. But yeah.
Josh, I think the first time I remember seeing the Kingsmen in Greenwood, Indiana, at a place called Jonathan Bird's Cafeteria. And a lot of groups went there, And the Kingsmen always went twice a year. And back before I was a member, I went and heard them sing a couple times there at this place. And I remember they had CDs on the table, and I thought, what are those things? And I'm not joking. I went back and told, I think my brother was there. I said, I'm never going to buy one of those things. What are those things? I was mad about a CD, and then, not too long after that, here I'm buying CDs.
Oh yeah.
And now they don't even make CDs anymore, Josh.
Yeah.
Or they don't put them. They sure don't put them in cars anymore. They still make them, but they sure don't put players in the cars anymore. So.
And another great question, probably the last one we'll mention about Bryan, but we asked a lot of the guys if they had any hidden talents, and we heard some great hidden talents as well. HVAC, plumbing. Some of them play guitar or something or whatever, and it's cool. But let's ask Bryan Hudson now. Do you have a hidden talent, sir?
Well, I do play drums.
Yes.
Some people know I play drums. That's kind of where I started, but I can draw pretty good.
Yes.
I can draw pretty good. Now, I can't draw you like if somebody would say, okay, draw Josh's face.
Stick figure. There you go.
Well, I could draw a person, but
to
make it look like you, probably it would be difficult. But I'm pretty good at drawing cartoon characters. And, every year for Christmas, in our front yard, we do lots of decorations. And my wife loves the Grinch. She loves the Grinch. So about 5 years ago, she said, look, how about we do some yard decorations for the Grinch? Okay. So we drove around the neighborhood and we saw this one decoration where it showed the Grinch. He's pulling the lights off a house. It's like it's like a decoration. She said, could you draw something like that? I said, yeah, I probably could. So I looked up, on the internet and found a picture of the Grinch, and I drew the Grinch.
Wow.
And he said, well, how about, can you draw the dog and the girl that goes, the Susie Lou Who of the, well, yeah, I'd probably draw them. Yeah. And now, like 5 years later, Josh, we've got, I think 9 houses out there. They're all on like plyboard. Okay. Yeah. 9 houses. I think we've got about 21 trees. We've got, Who people. All of our granddaughters, I have drawn as Who people.
Okay.
Yeah. Last year I did Elvis as a Who person. This year, my wife said, our son-in-law is a fireman. Could you do a fireman Who band? Who person?
Yeah.
Okay. So I did a fireman. Then she says, well, if he's a fireman, he's got to have a fire truck.
Uh-oh.
A fire truck. Okay, a fire truck. So for this week, I've been painting a fire truck.
Okay. Yeah.
And she said, well, how about doing an army man and a policeman too? So I have been working on, I if you can look at my hands, I probably have paint all over my hands from painting all these. And so I'll post some pictures on the Behind the Crown podcast page of our decorations. And so they're
very talented.
They're intense. Like I said,
wow.
I can't draw you, but I could draw characters and exaggerated features and that kind of thing.
What did speaking of that, what did your favorite character on Andy Griffith say Briscoe Darling? Is he talking about? Is he making fun of me? You can't draw me.
Oh.
Oh, I just come to myself while I throw that out there at him. But
Oh,
yeah.
that's good. That's good.
Oh, first.
Anytime, Josh, you can use an Andy Griffith reference,
Yeah.
I'm for it. You know what I'm
There
saying?
you go. That's right.
I'm for it.
Yes.
Well, we did mention a moment ago. We have decided to take the month of
Yes.
December off,
Yes.
and that'll give us a little bit of a break because we normally record Tuesday evenings or Thursday, and sometimes we were doing Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yes. Yeah. That's
And
right.
so, but we're going to kick things off in January, and I think we're probably going to start off maybe with Arthur Rice.
Okay. Yep.
A long
That's right.
time.
Yeah.
Well, he was with the Kingsmen about I think 7 years, maybe, or 8 years. But he was with the Kingdom Heirs for 25 years.
Yeah.
And you talk about icon in gospel music. Not only is he a Hall of Fame member, but he's the president of the SGMA.
Right.
And so we're going to have Arthur in January, and we've got we've got Bob Conley. He played guitar for Kingsman for
Brady
about a year.
Jones. Yeah. Brady Jones.
Yeah, we got Brady.
Brady
Yeah,
Jones.
Brady. He's
Yeah.
he was a funny interview.
Yes.
He very 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 talented young man. You know, and we got Chris Bryant.
Yes.
He's now with the Kingdom Heirs and been doing a great job with those
Great
guys.
job. Yes.
And then we've got Nick Succi, and Nick played piano for. They were the Carolina Boys going into the Kingsmen early 2001, and Nick left in 2007. Incredible musician, man.
Oh yeah. Yes.
He just
yes.
He's just incredible. He can play, man. He can make that piano talk for sure. You know.
Oh yes. Yes, he can. Yes, sir. Yes,
But,
sir. Yes, sir.
So
We got some great things lined up, everybody. We appreciate y'all for joining us on this episode of Behind the Crown Podcast. Feel free to share this episode on your Facebook page and check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and all major streaming platforms with Podcast World. Also find the video portions of these interviews on our YouTube channel as well. And then also like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. And, you know, if we don't see you before then, y'all have a very good Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll be back at it before long. Yes, sir. Yeah. Back at it.
that absolutely, and like I said, go back and watch the previous
Yes.
episodes, and just while we're gone in December, just go back and watch the other episodes and get a few laughs, and also keep up with us. And if you have questions,
Yes.
that you'd like for us to ask a particular guy that we've not interviewed, submit those questions. We'll make sure we get we get the questions added to the episode. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
So see you next time on the Behind the Crown podcast. God bless.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Behind the Crown podcast with your hosts, Bryan Hudson and Josh Griffin. If you would, please like, rate, and share this episode. Join us again for another episode of the Behind the Crown podcast.